Why do I use the mask? Yeah, well, I think it was about when I started the project about 9 years ago. I was going through a hard time in my life, going through a bad breakup, death of my father, working a dead-end job, or a job that became dead-end for me at the time. And I was going through some depression. I wanted to find music again as some sort of therapy and get all that negative energy out into something positive for myself. So I wasn't really feeling like I wanted to show my full self yet. I wanted to build back up on who I thought I was in the past. And by doing this music and using that as a therapeutic element, I wanted to hide myself, just create naturally for myself, and hopefully that would resonate with the people. This project is completely electronic. I use very little, if any, field recordings or real instruments. I'm a trained guitar player, and I went to music school, but pretty much adapting everything I learned into the machines has been, a lifelong mission and a great challenge and very enjoyable. Most of the time, the works that I make that are the best for myself, the ones that I'm most happy with, are things that come out of an idea or a feeling or something that happened in my day or week prior or current. So there's definitely inspiration just kind of pops its head up unexpectedly. So when I start doing something, it's less of the time I sit here and just experiment and play with things till something happens. Most of the time I have a concrete idea, like a little small chord progression or a feeling, a movement, a color, some sound pops to mind, and I try to recreate that using software and the instruments as well. For me, I spend way too much time trying to make sounds that are unique, that sound lively and not so static. So I really put a lot of effort into layering lots of sounds till something sounds like otherworldly, in short. I use a lot of plugins, a lot of in-the-box software. There's incredible software. Software can keep up with hardware these days. The hardware I use the most is definitely like Moog Voyager and Arp Odyssey, Eventide effects. I like having things that are tactile, that I can touch and move with. That really brings excitement to making things. Those are the definite main pieces of hardware in this studio that I use. As far as the synths are concerned and experimentation, I rarely save presets on synths because I think it could become a wormhole that you always go back using the same preset or sound. It's nice to have some, meat and potato sounds. Like in the Moog and the Prophet, I have my favorite pad in the Moog, like a beautiful kind of 80s Vangelis style pad. On the Moog, just some really heavy basses. I have the pitch wheel assigned to them so I can get some of these really heavy growlers out of that. Those are like bread and butter sounds, but for the rest of the things, I can pretty quickly get to a point where I make something that is aesthetically pleasing for me. And I'd like to for each piece of music. My output is slow sometimes, but I don't want to just rush tracks and they don't have any meaning to me. But I think it's the more you use certain devices or plugins, whatever it is you're using, it's easier for you to load something, turn something on, and hone into what you like because it becomes sort of a muscle memory. But you don't want to repeat yourself every time. I don't want to repeat myself every time. I want to do something unique each time I sit down and make something, so I'm excited about it and not, reinventing my own wheel. There's often things that I don't use so much that one day I'm wondering, hey, how can I make something new out of, something special out of what I haven't touched yet? I'll try something that I've never used before, immediately record whatever experimentations come out of that. Because when you don't know how to use a piece of gear, it's nice to try to break the thing and see what comes out. You'll make a sound that you can never reproduce because it's completely organic and coming from yourself. As far as the sound design and computer, a lot of Reaktor Absinthe from Native Instruments. I use battery a lot for the drums because it's a kind of a one-stop shop for really getting dark and dirty with drum samples or individual hits. You can turn the snap into a huge explosion pretty simply in that software, so it ranges really. I do reuse drums quite often. I mean, there's the 909 in here and the 808. Sure, recording them and sampling them, you can do that for the rest of your life. It's fun to do that. It's fun to run them through different processing. You know, you already have if you're going to use a kick drum sound that already sounds meaty and beefy, those boxes do without any further dynamic or equalization. There's a lot of sounds I've designed myself over the years, and I've made my own battery kits. So I have certain sounds I'll go back into. I'll load an instance of battery, and I'll have maybe 20 kicks, and I'll go in there, okay, here I have my bread and butter sounds. They're all good to go, but then I'll further filter and use some transient design, some little distortion, change the pitch. I like to pitch things in the track. If it's a melodic track, I try to pitch things a third or fifth or a seventh, depending, so they fit melodically, so the drums don't sound, too out of place. I like things to be in tune for the most part, if it's a, melodic effort. Everything in this room, everything's patched into a couple patch bays. It's very simple. It's 2 USB outs from the computer. One is handling all the MIDI. Everything's daisy chained. Everything has its own port in MIDI going into the software, so you can access anything right here from the keyboard if you need to, and patch any audio into the sound cards, which go into the little mixer, or they can go direct into the computer. Sound card setup is very simple here. It's an RME Digiface going out digitally into 2 Behringer ADAT converters. So we have 16 in, 16 outs. Simple, cost efficient, works, sound quality's fine. Just recording at 24-bit. Simple setup, it works, it's reliable. Almost everything is hard quantized except for any hooks, atmospheric elements, drones. I always nudge them around. So if I were to jam it apart, mess with the delay, reverb, and get some grit and some crunch to it, those parts I'll take out and put them in a loose grid. I'll undo the snap quantize and put them in a loose grid. As far as if it's something melodic, it's really absolutely hard quantized to the grid. I tend to do a lot with kick drums and low ends with sub, a mid kick, a deep kick, layer those, lots of compression, EQ, etc. But I'll nudge those slightly, not very much. Usually I'll do it in the sample editor itself. So I'll play everything straight in, then adjust, giving it some air in front of the sample if I want to have something swung in a little bit different way. Just because I'm a little bit OCD with that, I want everything to be just on the grid visually when I'm working on it, so it's easier to comprehend where you are in the track. Headless Horseman music is based on tons of effects and trying to get things out of the static zone. So any effects I use in the computer, I will modulate by hand or in the rare occasion with a controller and record a take of the effect chain on that sound, press it to tape, and then do it for the next one. So if I'm doing like a drone layer, I'll record maybe, modular synth, some of the moog, record some absinthe underneath, take those stems, do all my modulations, all the effects modulations, and then press them so I can't go back to them, and then nudge out. Take out the good parts, overlay the weird parts, retune them using the complex waveform in Ableton, and just trying to get something otherworldly sounding out of that, so you can always find get into new sonic territories. As far as the hardware is concerned, I have the Bastel time delay, there's an Eventide space, there's an Eventide delay here. There's not a lot of outboard effects here, but I love using the Eventide stuff because when you have a delay and you change the time, it really gives it this kind of digital, modern sound with the delay flutters back and forth and just takes it out of that being static range. And it doesn't have to be something overly extreme, but it's nice to have some hand-on effects, and they do bring some of the life into it. And having them going through the desk, even though it's just a small, not the fanciest mixer here, playing around with some of the high and low mids and the sweeps, just bring it back to life a bit more than just having it in the computer being super static. Happy accidents. There are a dime a dozen sitting here, turning everything on, routing things how you normally don't route them, and just playing around till something good comes out. That's a positive thing. That's the best part about experimenting and creating. A lot of my hooky sounds, the weird, random, crazy, freaky sound noises just is popping it out. They're usually always some kind of random element, some atonal sound where I could never reproduce that and wouldn't be able to put it together if I thought about it, because you hear these sounds in your head and they just sound bizarre. You go, how can I make something that sounds so bonkers and weird? And I think that's when the experimentation comes in good. Just turn everything on, go nuts. When you hear that point, you know yourself, hey, that fits my sound, grab it. And for those of you who are still finding your sound, those little nuggets, are worth saving and building into a track somehow. And sometimes these little hooks, they become the main element of the track. They become the part of the track that speaks to you. Everything else is just filler. I don't overwork myself. I never force myself to try to do anything. I wait until I feel good. I'm gonna have a good studio day, I'm happy, I have a concrete idea, or I just wanna come in and play around, make noise, and not even record something. So there's often days like that too, that's fine. The process is what brings me the most amount of joy at the end of the day.